Hello, and greetings from Philadelphia. My name is Christina Burton. I'm the Senior Associate Director of Graduate Admissions at Penn Engineering. We're so happy to have you all here to learn more about some of our master's programs that have an upcoming application deadline of February 1. So we have a few representatives from three of our different departments. Represented today is the Department of Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering, Material Science and Engineering, as well as Mechanical Engineering and Applied Mechanics. So this session will be recorded and it will later be posted to our Graduate Admissions YouTube channel. Here's an overview of the agenda for today. It's going to be a quick session that'll last about 45 minutes to an hour, but we really hope that it will be an intimate setting where our prospective students can answer any questions you have in advance of our February 1st deadline. So I'll start out by giving an overview of Penn Engineering, and then we'll go right into hearing from representatives from the three departments that I previously mentioned. We are privileged to have some of our faculty program directors here to talk about their programs, so this is a real treat. And I encourage you all to stay on and be part of the interactive Q&A that provides you with an opportunity to speak directly with faculty or department representatives about any questions that you may have. All right, so the University of Pennsylvania is located in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Philadelphia is the sixth largest city in our nation, and it has a lot to offer its residents. For example, there's a really good liberal arts and performing arts scene in Philadelphia. So if you're someone who enjoys theater and music, and as well as outdoor entertainment, there's a lot of opportunity here for you in Philadelphia. We are looking currently at a picture of Locust Walk, which showcases our beautiful campus that sits on 3 acres in the middle of West Philadelphia. We are about a 10-minute drive away from Center City, Philadelphia. So this picture, of course, represents what our campus looks like in the fall with all the beautiful changes to our leaves. So it looks a little bit different now that we are in the winter session. We recently had a little bit of snow, but the roads are clear right now. But we hope that you will be able to join us once you apply and hopefully are admitted to one of our programs, and you'll be able to experience the campus for yourself. So Penn Engineering is one of 12 professional schools at the University of Pennsylvania. So I'm just providing this slide to give you an overview so you can see what we have to offer prospective students, staff, and faculty. We currently have 15 master's programs. Very soon we will be adding on our second online master's program with the Data Science Online Masters. We have 6 PhD programs that represent our 6 academic departments. We have 13 engineering-specific research centers and institutions, and you can see from the ratio of faculty to full-time graduate students that our students have a unique opportunity to create purposeful relationships with our faculty. So I see that people are talking in the chat. I will try to answer any questions that you have during the interactive Q&A, and I'm so grateful for our panelists. If you see any questions that you can answer, please feel free to jump in. All right, so you'll also note that the last point here on this slide is our research expenditure. You can see we put a lot of money towards ensuring that our students have unique and innovative research opportunities in our state-of-the-art facilities. Actually, very shortly in 2024, we will open the doors to our first data science building, which is named after our current president, Amy Gutman. All right, I mentioned before that we currently have 15 different master's programs. Here they are listed today. As I mentioned previously, we will hear from representatives from 3 of those programs. Unfortunately, we were not able to have a representative from our bioengineering department come speak to us, but I will share contact information if you have questions to direct to representatives in that department. I mentioned we have 6 different PhD programs, which correspond to our 6 academic departments. They include bioengineering, computer and information science, chemical and biomolecular engineering, electrical and systems engineering, material science and engineering, and mechanical engineering and applied mechanics. So here are just some pictures of our lovely Penn Engineering campus. Our campus is primarily on 33rd and 34th on Walnut Street. And so these pictures here represent the major Penn Engineering complex that is comprised of 4 different buildings. And those buildings include the Town Building, the Moore Building, Skirkanich, and Levine Halls. So one thing that I like to point out is if you ever have the privilege to come to campus for a tour, you will be directed in our Moore Building to the first model of the modern computer, which is known as ENIAC. I failed to mention earlier, but we have 3 specific research area focuses for Penn Engineering. They include data science, healthcare and engineering, and energy science and technology, which is focusing on climate change. All right, for the purposes of today's session, I would like to highlight just 2 of our research facilities. Keep in mind, we have 13 that are engineering specific for the campus, but I'd like to just point out 2 of our research facilities that are relevant to the 3 programs you'll hear about today. So we're looking at right now LRSM, known as the Laboratory for Research on the Structure of Matter. A lot of students who are currently enrolled in graduate programs for material science and engineering, as well as chemical and biomolecular engineering, conduct research out of this building. It is located conveniently directly catty-corner to the Penn Engineering complex. So the focus of research in this facility is materials research. It also hosts the Materials Research Science and Engineering Center, known as MERSEC, and it is funded by the National Science Foundation. You'll learn a little bit more about some of the research happening in this facility when you're able to speak with some of our faculty directors. All right, another facility, and again, we have many more, but I just wanted to highlight ones relevant to the departments that are going to be highlighted today. So we're looking right now at our Pennovation Center. This is located a little bit off of main campus, about a mile away, but it's easily accessible if you want to walk or also via Penn Transit. We have free transit that's available to our students, faculty, and staff. So in the Pennovation Center, you will find 2 floors of co-working space with wet and dry laboratories. This facility is used by our students and faculty, of course, but also by startups and other professionals that are doing research that's relevant to this field. So on the 3rd floor of the Pennovation Center, you will find the Penn Engineering Research and Collaboration Hub, which integrates research from computer science, electrical, mechanical, and systems engineering. All right, so before we go on to the program highlights, I just want to highlight that we actually have an upcoming admissions deadline. So February 1st is the final deadline to submit an application for one of our master's programs. If you intend to start your graduate studies in the fall of 2022, you have just a few weeks, just a little over 2 weeks to submit that application. So you'll see grayed out on my left here is November 1st. The 3 programs listed there, Computer and Information Science, Computer and Information Technology, and Data Science. They actually have 2 deadlines because they have so many applications that are submitted. They're very popular programs. But again, all of our master's programs have the final deadline of February 1. All right, so now I am going to stop talking and allow you to hear from the people you showed up to hear from. So we'll start first with a highlight of our Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering Master's Program, and you will hear directly from John Crocker, who is the Program Director. Dr. Crocker, you can unmute yourself now.
Hi, Christina. Can I share slides?
Yes, let me just grant you access now. Okay, it should be available to you.
Okay. All right, you can see my slides, I assume?
Yes.
All right, so thanks for Christina for giving the overview. I'm going to tell you about the Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering Department. These are the primary names. Our department chair is Chinna Masuji. I'm John Crocker. I'm the head of the graduate group, which oversees graduate education. Admissions for the graduate group are handled by Dr. Diane Lee, who couldn't be here today. And we have a full-time staff coordinator to support all student needs named Ken Lambert. What I wanted to point out is that the department, the CBE department, consists of 20 full-time research faculty, primary faculty, and we are also associated with 10 faculty in other departments in the engineering school. And the vast majority of these 30 faculty members are full-time research active, like because Penn is an R1 institution. Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering, in terms of its subject matter, relates to things like petroleum, energy, environment, engineering chemical reactions at scale, also pharmaceutical production and biotechnology, and shading into material science, computational chemistry, computational biology, and things like that. And we're very lucky to get a lot of very talented applicants for the master's program, and we normally admit between 20 and 25 per year. So at any given time, the program has 40 or 50 master's students in it. So like a lot of master's programs, it's a 4-semester program, although we find that a significant proportion of our students who want to can complete it in 3 semesters. You need to complete 10 course units to get the degree. And of those, only 4 are required classes that we specify, and fully 6 are electives. And I'll say more about that in a second. We recently changed the curriculum to liberalize it a little bit a couple of years ago, and that's been very popular with our master's students, giving people a lot more freedom to actually choose what kind of classes they want and to kind of tailor their degree to their own interests. I want to point out that the 4 required classes are actually taken mixed with PhD students. So those classes are about half master students and half PhD students in chemical and biomolecular engineering, and they're graded on the same curve. And in general, they all look the same. So we get very good PhD students, we get very good master students. I don't have a lot of details, but I would say that all of most of those 30 faculty are very happy to take master students and have them work in their lab and get a research experience. And that can be done either as taking an independent study course and registering for credit, or working in the lab not for credit. And I would say a lot of students do that, about 50%. I would say do that kind of independent study or research experience in one of our labs in CBE. And most of them are doing that because they're interested in pursuing a PhD eventually. So they use the research experience and the relationship they're building with the PI to get a recommendation letter that will let them get into a compelling PhD program. And that's about 50% of our students. And in fact, about 5 or 10% of our students actually apply to the Penn PhD program and get admitted to us. And of course, they don't have to take the classes again. So those students usually start as essentially taking a qualifying exam and then get right into research. But that's a small number. It's only about 5 to 10% of the students, but a very large portion of our students do go to seek PhDs in other competitive departments. The summer between those 2 years, the students who are on this sort of research track will usually end up doing full-time research in a lab over the summer with the goal of writing a peer-reviewed paper. And those that are not interested in pursuing a PhD will often do internships. And I would say probably about 20% of our students do internships in that summer. And we do not do any sort of significant, we don't do a support for that. Okay, the students usually find their own internships by talking to each other and word of mouth. We maintain a list of contacts at different companies that have done internships for us in the past, that have hosted internships, and we share those with the students. And generally, I think the students don't have a very difficult time finding internships. So to dive into the curriculum a little bit more, of those 4 required classes, we would call them core classes. 3 of those 4 are on classic chemical engineering topics, which are transport, thermodynamics, and reaction kinetics. And then the 4th required class is a math class. And we recommend this particular math class, which is just engineering math. But if a student, oftentimes we have students who have already taken equivalent classes in math classes, and they want to sort of swap this out, get a waiver to take a different math class that, you know, would expand their knowledge and be appropriate for their degree. And we usually allow that. So even though they have to take a math class, they actually have a lot of freedom to take whatever math class they like. Now, the remaining 6 classes, 2 of them have to be CBE classes. And we do that just because we want to maintain some sort of identity. If you're getting a CBE master's degree, we want to know that at least 5 of the 10 classes you took were CBE classes. That would be 3 core plus 2 CBE electives. If you want to take more CBE electives, you can, but you're not required to. So then the remaining electives are free electives. And in general, I'll say more about that in a minute too. You can take whatever subject matter you want. A lot of students like to take entrepreneurship or negotiation, And we allow students to take up to one class in Penn's famous business school, the Wharton School. But by and large, we treat the students as adults, and we sort of think that you're the best arbiter of what your degree should be. And we see ourselves as kind of an interdisciplinary program spanning sort of physics, chemistry, and engineering concepts. Great. Now, let's see. So just to list what the 500 level and 600 level electives look like in CBE, we have these 19 classes have been offered in the last couple years. And these gives you a kind of an overview of the different subjects that you can choose. And again, you're only required to choose 2 of these 19. And then for the other 4, you can take anything in the engineering school or even in science departments like chemistry or physics or biology if you wanted to. Great. Now, this can be a little bit daunting for people, okay, to figure out, well, what do I take? With those 19 electives, I have to choose 2, or all of the hundreds of different elective classes that you could take in the other engineering departments or master's programs. So we try to organize things into concentrations. And this is not a formal concentration program, so your transcript at the end won't say, oh, I have a master's degree with a concentration in blah, blah, blah. But when we actually polled our students and actually looked at what they were taking, and asked them how they sorted themselves, the students sorted themselves into their interest into these sort of 7 buckets. And so Penn Chem CBE actually has a lot of PIs that do a lot of computational work at the state of the art. And so a lot of our students come in and do a lot of computational work, either in biological sciences or in other non-biological topics. Not surprisingly, in a Chemie program, we look at sort of our classic process control and design, catalysis, and energy in the environment applications. And then, of course, a lot of students who are interested in pharma and biotechnology just take classes concentrating in those subjects. And then rounding it out, we also study sort of soft materials and polymer science. Now, we actually, if you go to the CBE website, we actually have a spreadsheet that sort of has a list of suggested courses for each of these different concentration areas. So if you're interested in coming to CBE and you're interested in one of these 7 research areas, you can dive into that spreadsheet and then read the course descriptions that are recommended to take with those. But again, these are just strictly recommendations to kind of get you a jumping off point based on what your interests are. Let's see. So in terms of our employers that our recent graduates have gone to, if you think about those concentrations, a lot of our students have gone to pharma companies like Merck, Janssen, AstraZeneca, GSK. A lot of our students have gotten classic training in sort of energy and catalysis, have gone to work for major energy companies like Exxon, Shell, Dow Chemical Company. A lot of them go work for sort of home products, personal care products, things like SC Johnson, Colgate-Palmolive, Procter & Gamble, Honeywell. And so, yeah, and then of course we have a significant number that go into tech and that work for places like PayPal or Amazon or Intel. And so that's pretty much the summary of our program and who our students are who come and where they end up afterwards. And I'm going to turn it back to Christina, and I'll stay on and I'll be happy to answer your questions when we get to the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Crocker. I appreciate that. So we've had some really good questions coming out of the chat. Thank you for using the chat, and thank you for our hosts and other staff within Penn Engineering for responding. So now we'll hear from our next department, Material Science and Engineering, and Dr. Kantha, who is the program director, will be speaking on their behalf.
Hi, Christina. Am I audible? Yes, good.
Yes.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Are you going to put up the slide?
Oh, yes. I'm sorry. I completely forgot, but I do have your slides.
No problem.
Pardon me.
No problem.
Here you are.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Mahadevan Kantha, and I'm the director of the master's program in Material Science and Engineering. And you've just heard from my colleague, Professor Crocker, about CBE, and you even heard some words about materials there. Right at the outset, I just want to clarify one small point which occasionally confuses certain applicants. I want to clarify that M.S.E refers to Master of Science in Engineering, that's the master's degree. And when I refer to MSc, like here down below, without the dots, it refers to Material Science and Engineering. And as you're aware, material science is probably one of the oldest science that human civilization has known. After all, we have the Iron Age, the Bronze Age, and so on, named after materials that were harnessed, and we continue to do so at a breathtaking pace. And this is probably one of the most interdisciplinary of all engineering sciences. It has always been like that. And so what I want to do at the outset is to give you an overview of the program of our graduate students, what are the courses that they take, and so on, exactly like what my colleague did for CBE. So let me walk you through a little bit of the MSc department in a nutshell. In the most recent US News and World Report ranking, we were ranked at number 12, which is very credit-worthy considering that we are actually a very small department in the School of Engineering and Applied Science at Penn. The faculty consists of 14 primary tenure-track faculty, 2 lecturers, 8 secondary faculty, and 67 graduate group faculty, which encompasses all the engineering disciplines, the natural sciences department, and even the School of Medicine. So that makes our department quite attractive to a large number of students because they can actually interact and do work with any faculty member who's a part of the graduate group or part of the School of Engineering or part of the School of Arts and Sciences. As far as our current master's student population is, we have 34 first-year students who joined in fall of 2021, and we have a total of 52 second-year or third-year students, of which 20 of them are dual degree students. Many of our master's students actually pursue a dual degree. I would say about 20 to 25% of our total population, as you can see. And the very popular dual majors, which are always driven by demand and the current shift in what careers are most promising worldwide. The popular dual majors include CIT, Computer and Information Technology, Data Science, our newest program, which has seen enormous interest, Scientific Computing, CBE, Chemical and Biomolecular Engineering, Mechanical Engineering, Computer Graphics and Game Technology, Nanotechnology. Oh, I'm sorry, I have repeated CBE twice. I think I meant BE at the end. I'm sorry for that typo. It should have been bioengineering. We had a decent cohort of graduates, considering that the world has been experiencing a pandemic for the last almost 2 years now. So in May 2021, we had 25 students who graduated, and then in summer, we had 3 students who graduated, and then just in December 2021, 13 of our master's students got their degrees. The companies that hire the most recent graduates, which includes both 2020 graduates and 2021, are listed below. Foxconn, Haier, Amazon, Microsoft, Huawei, Itlies, Gore, Estee Lauder, L'Oreal, Boeing, Applied Materials, Northrop Grumman, Cepheid, Evonik, and a few others that I may not be familiar with because the students, you need to prod them to tell us where they are currently, and we work on it diligently. And generally, I think the students value that experience. At Penn, studying for a master's degree in material science, the feedback from our graduating class has always been wonderful. They not only appreciate the scientific expertise that they gained, but more importantly, they value the friendships that they make with other master's students in various other disciplines, the camaraderie, the campus, the city of Philadelphia, as Christina was just showing us at the beginning. So all this experience of studying in a top-rated graduate school is what our students carry with them, and I'm sure they do very well in their careers. And we have about 20 to 25% of the students who wish to apply for PhD programs and go to some of the top rated programs. And some of them also get admitted to Penn, but a very small number. But they go to very prestigious programs. It's impossible for me to list all the names, but I've just given you a sample here. Can we move on to the next slide? Yes. So let me just walk you through very briefly, which you can also see on our website. There are 3 popular routes to earning a master's degree. A master's degree requires 10 credit units, and a student can do that by just taking 10 graduate level courses, out of which we require that 5 of those graduate level courses be from material science and engineering, something very similar to CBE. And some of the current offerings are listed below, as you can read them. In addition to 5 MSc courses, I generally advise the students to include a 6th MSc course just to give them that extra edge that distinguishes their master's degree expertise from other closely related master's degree programs. And I think students, some of them sometimes do all 10 courses in MSc, or at least 7 or 8. Definitely 6 is very popular. And in addition to the 5 MSc required graduate courses, students need to take at least 2 courses from Cs, which either are physical science based, or we allow for 1 entrepreneurship course, which is very popular. We also allow for computer and information technology course, which is extremely popular. The program allows for 2 free elective courses, both of which could either be from Wharton or from any other school in the university. They only have to be graduate level courses, so there is a little more freedom. And the 10th course can be generally science-based from either the School of Arts and Sciences like physics or chemistry, or even health sciences, which is now very popular. The other options are 8 graduate level courses with 2 independent study, or 7 graduate level courses and to do an explicit thesis, which requires a written thesis but no oral viva, as in the PhD program. And those 3 research credits are usually earned as research credit, 2 research credits and 1 independent study. And as my colleague Dr. Crocker mentioned, independent study is very popular with students because it gives them an opportunity to interact with a very active and excellent faculty member, practically in any department at Penn in the physical sciences. It gives them a unique opportunity to be part of their research groups, to understand the cutting edge research ideas, and to interact with the PhD students and the master's students in their group, and to get a valuable recommendation for both jobs as well as for future graduate program like PhD elsewhere. So that can be done virtually with any faculty member in the sciences, in both natural sciences as well as in engineering sciences and health sciences. May I have the next slide, please? In addition to doing an independent study, we have also been successful in awarding Master Scholar Awards to some of our very research inclined students who have a high GPA at the end of their first semester. They submit a proposal to work with a faculty member, prepare a budget, and they are given a small amount of money that will cover their research costs. Basically, the use of all the state-of-the-art facility at the at the Singh Nano Science Building that Christina showed in the beginning, and also to purchase chemicals, to pay for computer costs if a student is pursuing a computational project. And the research areas that are very popular are listed here. Again, no surprise. In addition to all the standard areas, computational material science is gaining a lot of ground. Materials for energy, materials for health science, polymers, structural materials, and the bread and butter of material science and physics, electronic, optical, and magnetic properties. And I'm very proud to say that even though we are a small department in the engineering school, only one of the 16 master's programs, Our students have consistently won a lot of CEAS academic awards and research awards, and some of the students have won it recently in May 2021 or mentioned here. And in the bracket, I have mentioned where they are currently. As you can see, some of them have joined our own PhD programs in mechanical engineering, in chemistry. Some of them have gone on to other PhD programs, and students are working in other industry, both in the US as well as in China. And this has been very tough 2 years because students have been learning remotely for the most part. So we are happy that the graduating class did so well to be able to get employment or proceed on to coveted PhD programs. So without taking too much time, if Christina can forward the slide to the last one. I just want to show you the, unfortunately due to the pandemic, we could only hold a virtual celebration of our May graduates. We had prepared a nice Zoom celebration with all the names of our graduates and the names of our award winners. Normally, the last in-person graduation that we held was in 2019, and I'm very proud to share some pictures here. 2020 was also online, but we are very confident that in May 2022, we are going to have a grand commencement to commemorate both the year's graduates as well as this year's current graduates. And all that I can say to all the prospective students who have joined us or who are going to watch this video later on, the master's program is one of the best investments that you can do. Students complete the master's program typically in 3 to 4 semesters, although the pandemic sometimes helped accelerate the graduation by because summer courses were offered in larger numbers and students with nothing else to do were just inclined to take 4 courses per semester and graduate in 1 year. So the time goes very quickly. And I hope I will definitely be staying on for the rest of the webinar to answer any questions specific to material science. I wish you all good luck. And thank you, Christina.
Thank you, Dr. Kanta. And thank you for mentioning that we will have an in-person graduation ceremony. And I know our students, staff, faculty, and alumni are really excited about that. So here's to getting back to some sense of normalcy pretty soon. All right, so now that you've heard from material science and engineering, we'll hear from our last department, mechanical engineering and applied mechanics. And we have Peter Litt, who is the academic coordinator for that program. Peter, it's on you.
Great. Christina, is it possible for me to share slides?
Yes, that's absolutely.
Oh, okay, great. And I'm going to do that. Hold on a sec. Sorry, give me one moment. You've enabled screen sharing?
Yes, I have.
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the option here. Okay. There it is. I apologize. Now I have it.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry, I'm not familiar with the webinar. So first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone to this event today. And I'd like to apologize. Our faculty member is currently in a faculty meeting, so I will be standing in for the representative from our department, Dr. Howard Hu is the professor and master's program chair. Here also you can see a depiction of the hierarchy in the department with our department chair and our graduate group chair. And that's me, of course, and my contact information is here at the bottom. I'd like to introduce our graduate group. First of all, we have 21 faculty in our primary department and 22 associated faculty from other departments for a grand total of 43 faculty. This allows for an interdisciplinary research program in our department, which I think is a great advantage from MEAM at Penn compared to some other mechanical engineering departments. Currently, we have 123 students. It's a rather large program. It's the second largest, if I understand correctly. Let's see here. We have 5 concentration areas for mechanical engineering. The most popular and the largest one is mechatronic and robotic systems, but we also offer micro and nano systems, heat transfer fluid mechanics and energy, mechanics of materials, and design and manufacturing. Our program consists of 10 course units, plus 2 seminars. The course unit's composition is 2 engineering math, and then 5 concentration areas in one of the previous 5 concentrations that I mentioned. Each one has one required course. For example, for mechatronic and robotic systems, they must take Introduction to Mechatronic Design, which is MEAM 510. Then they have to take 2 other courses in that concentration area, and finally, any 2 other graduate level mechanical engineering classes. The third component, of course, is 3 free electives, and those can be any graduate level classes in the School of Engineering. We also have students who are interested in, for example, natural sciences, maybe they're interested in physics or biology or maybe advanced math. Those are courses that are offered in other schools, for example, the School of Arts and Sciences, and it is permissible with if consultation with the student's faculty advisor. And as mentioned by some of our other panelists today, we also have students who take management or finance courses as well, again, in consultation with the student's faculty advisor. The final component of the degree is 2 seminars. The seminars are designed to offer students exposure to cutting-edge research from speakers from other universities. Just as an example here, we have one coming up on January 25th. Dr. Sineski is going to be visiting us from Stanford University. All of our seminars are open to the public, so if you are interested in learning more about the kinds of research that our faculty do in collaboration with visiting faculty from around the world, we encourage you to attend. This will be online via Zoom, so just send me an email and I can make sure that you have the link. I'd like to discuss outcomes for our program. I encourage all students to visit the Career Services at the University of Pennsylvania website, which has detailed statistics about the outcomes for the School of Engineering and also for mechanical engineering in particular. These statistics are for the School of Engineering wide for master's degree recipients. You can see that 90% of our graduates are either employed, enrolled in continuing education, or in government service within 6 months of graduation. For mechanical engineering, I'd like to point out some of the firms that our graduates work for, including Accenture, Amazon, Boeing, ExxonMobil is another one. These are our students tend to do very well in the job search, and we're always happy to support them. And we also offer networking and career services based events throughout the semester to help our students get to know our alumni. And we have a very active alumni group, and it's one of the things that we're very proud of in our department is to help connect students with graduates. I encourage you to visit the MEAM website, which has details about events, news, research achievements of various kinds. You can also, at the website, check out our graduate student handbook, which has the rules for master's students. If you are admitted, you will be aware of all of the programs. And here's just a screenshot of the most currently updated master's student handbook. We have an active graduate student organization, current president Brian Acosta. I encourage any interested students to reach out to MEGA, that's the Mechanical Engineering Graduate Association. They can tell you if you have questions that you feel like would be best answered by a current student. They're very nice people and they'd be very happy to address any questions you may have. And of course, you can always contact us. So please don't hesitate to reach out to meme@cs.upenn.edu, and I will be happy to assist you. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Great presentation, and thank you for stepping in on behalf of your faculty and department. That was great. So I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge we are honored to have our Associate Dean of Graduate Programs present with us, Dr. Boon Dao Liu. Dr. Liu, do you have any remarks you'd like to make before we move to the interactive Q&A?
Yeah, so apologize first of all for being slightly late. I had another meeting earlier on. I'd like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Penn Engineering is a really amazing place. It's a very exciting time to be here. And I hope to see many of you apply and look forward to reading your applications.
Great, thank you for that. All right, so we are now at the interactive Q&A. Thank you to the panelists as well as participants who have been using the chat feature as well as the Q&A feature to pose questions. Now, there are some questions that I thought might benefit everyone to hear if you don't have access to the chat. So I'm just going to repeat some, and I will invite our panelists to respond as they see fit. So one common question that we often get is, what are the opportunities that exist for research assistantships? So could you all speak to the availability there is for those type of assistantships within your programs?
So in CBE, we have a lot of master's students doing research experiences. And in any they can't, if they're doing a semester as an independent study, doing it for credit, they can't be paid as a research assistant. But if they're working in the lab over the summer or in another semester, then they may be paid. I think that's really up to negotiation between the student and the advisor. And there's certainly not a lot of expectation that they'll be paid. But if they're working full-time over the summer, usually some payment is possible. As far as TA-ships, we often will hire master students TAs with relevant experience for some of our graduate laboratories.
So are there certain things you're looking for? Can I apply for a teaching assistant job or a research assistant job now if I am an applicant?
Usually I tell the applicants in CBE to wait until they arrive and to really focus on their academic experience at Penn and to not worry about trying to recruit a great research experience before they get here. Because oftentimes it's much easier to sort of get on the ground, start talking to people, start knocking on doors, and sort of see how the faculty align with their intellectual interests after they get here.
I think I would just like to add to John's remarks that yes, it's the same thing in material science. We encourage students to come, arrive on campus, do their first semester really well, because I think the academic performance at the end of the first semester is a strong indicator for faculty to also consider their request for research seriously. And then, and the first semester also gives them the time to attend seminars, to see firsthand what kind of research is going on in both the department as well as in the school. And also interact with other graduate students to learn more firsthand what they may have read on the web, but it's very different when you hear it from another fellow student. And master students typically become teaching assistants during their second year if they have performed exceptionally well in the course and show a flair for helping students, for explaining things clearly, then yes, they stand a very good chance. And research assistantships, as Professor Crocker mentioned, is very similar. It's worked out on an individual basis depending on the funding, but whether they get paid during the summer or not, the experience and the value that they gain out of doing research in the cutting edge area with other very valuable members, I think you cannot put a monetary value to that. That is probably an investment that they're going to capitalize on in future. So thank you.
Christina, if it's okay, I'd just like to make a couple of points about this. And so in mechanical engineering, we have a lot of students who participate in student employment of various kinds, grading, teaching assistant or research assistantships. And at the beginning of the semester right now is when we're getting a lot of opportunities like this coming about. I just want to point out that it would be a supplemental source of income, but it would not be in any way expected to cover all of your expenses or your tuition. So when you're making your plans, please consider that. We have 60, 70 different grading support positions open every semester. It's a lot. So definitely opportunities exist, but it's just to consider that this would be supplemental.
Thanks for the clarification. So another question that we have in the Q&A that I thought it would be good for you guys to respond to has to do with qualifications. So when you're looking at an application, what are the priorities? You know, what comes first in terms of GPA, your GRE scores if you submit them, letters of recommendation? The specific question was, could you please tell if a good amount of relevant work experience can make up for your GPA? So could you talk about how you evaluate applicants and what are priorities for you?
So I'm afraid I can't directly address that because I don't do admissions in CBE. So I'm going to pass it to Kantha.
Okay, thank you, John. So I evaluate all the applications for admissions to the material science program, and I generally look at all the aspects with particular emphasis, of course, if the GPA is very high, if they have taken a GRE, if that's very high, and if the applicant looks strong, the chances are definitely high. But especially for those students who may have finished their bachelor's degree several years ago, have industry experience, that asks that generally, I immediately focus on their statement. Why do they want to get a master's degree at this point? And I'm very happy to tell you that over the last few years, we have had several master's students in material science who did their undergraduate in 2008, worked in a semiconductor industry for 10 years, and now realize that they need to get a master's degree in order to advance further in their career. And 2008, maybe their GPA was not terribly impressive compared to the other student applicant pool that we get, but they carry an edge in terms of their research experience, in terms of their work experience. And I have admitted those students, and I'm happy to say that they do well and they bring their own expertise to the class and ask very good questions. So we examine every application holistically. The student statement is very important indicator of why the student is interested, and in most of our disciplines are so interdisciplinary that we get students from physics majors, chemistry majors, mechanical engineering, bioengineering, CBE, applying to material science, and they may have had very few material science courses as an undergrad. But that is not a deterrent. If the student is motivated and has a strong inclination to gain a master's in material science, it's not difficult to do our graduate level courses and come out on top and even be hired as a TA the next year when the course is given. So every applicant is examined holistically, the entire package, and no student should feel that if their GPA is not very high, or if they haven't been able to take GRE, or if they haven't come from a top school, that they do not stand a chance. No, you will be surprised. We are always on the lookout for finding those gems who come from perhaps second-tier institutions but show the motivation, and they sparkle along with our stars from the top-rated institutions equally well, if not better. So thank you.
So just to challenge a little bit further, and anyone can respond to this, what do you think about applicants who do not submit GRE scores? Since we have given the option the last 2 years to make the GRE optional, how does it impact an applicant's profile when they do not submit GRE scores?
Well, I can answer that because I talked to Diane Lee, the admission officer, and he's basically told us that we haven't found the GRE scores to be particularly useful for many years. And so the decision to drop it was a non-event.
I agree with John, and usually there is actually a strong correlation between the student's overall performance in the undergraduate and the GRE scores. So if one is missing, if the other record is there, it already gives us a good picture of what the student is capable of. And even there, we also look at, a student may not have done well in the first 2 years of undergrad for whatever reason. They weren't even sure about their major. They were exploring their undergrad school and pressures. And then in the third and fourth year, they show a strong inclination in an engineering discipline and try to do their best. But their GPA somehow still carries a little bit of the remnants of their poorer performance in the first 2 years. But it is really where they are at the time that they apply that matters the most. And GRE scores are helpful, but in the last few years, we have realized without the GRE, we are able to make very wise decisions.
Thank you for the clarification. That's a really popular question that my team in admissions gets regularly, so I appreciate your response. Another question sort of related to considering applicant profiles is looking at research publications. So this is a big question we get in admissions all the time. A lot of times people think that they have to have published most of the time to get into a PhD program. But if you are a master's applicant and you have published engineering research, but that research is not relevant to the graduate program you plan to enter, does it carry any weight? Does it give you a boost to your profile?
certainly think it does. I certainly look at what is being mentioned as a publication, and the student may want to do something very different. And that I think is perfectly valid. Most of the faculty are probably working in research areas totally different from what they actually did in their PhD work 10 years ago, 20 years ago. So it's very common. It's really the thinking and the brain training that you learn in a graduate program. It's not so much exactly to which problem you apply, and that's why the skill is valued even in financial institutions, because they want thinkers. They don't necessarily want people who are directly out of Wharton, but may lack the analytical skills to think through, imagine scenarios. That's what science teaches you. What if? And so it's perfectly all right if they have a research publication, but if they do not have a research publication, that is not discounted. That is taken as quite expected for master's programs. For PhD, maybe there is a little more emphasis.
Yeah, I guess this is really the essence of what we mean by holistic review, right? The primary question in admissions is the student capable of succeeding in the master's program? And that's an assessment that's based upon the experience of the admissions officer. And it's not about a formula or checking boxes with GPAs or scores or papers. It's really sort of based upon the accumulated experience of the admission officer, not me in CBE. You make a holistic review of, will the student succeed?
All right, great. So I'm cognizant of time. We have about 9 minutes before we hit the hour. So I just want to sum up one of the questions that we're getting now regarding finances. So I will share a link to our Student Financial Services Department where you can get a breakdown of costs for the master's program. I will also say that we do not guarantee full funding to master's students. We do guarantee full funding, of course, to doctoral students, and that's standard across our peer institutions as well. There are very limited opportunities for scholarships and fellowships for master's students, and you will automatically be considered if you meet criteria for any of the available scholarships. Right now, the limited funding we have available for master's students is typically for permanent residents or U.S. citizens and those who identify as underrepresented. As I mentioned, you do not have to submit a separate application to be considered for this funding. If you are admitted to one of our master's programs and you meet the requirements for said scholarship or fellowship, you will automatically be alerted if you are nominated as a finalist or recipient of it. So hopefully that clarifies things, and I will go back into the chat and make sure I include the link for Student Financial Services. So are there any last minute questions or any information that the panelists would like to share with their applicants? I have to say, this is a really unique opportunity to speak directly with faculty who are reviewing your applications. So if you do have any, important questions that you want to ask that will help you to determine whether or not Penn is the right school for you, please do so using the chat, or you can unmute yourself and speak up. So I'll give you a few more minutes to do that. And while we're waiting for students, I would just continue on with sharing some helpful information that is relevant to you all. So as I mentioned, we have the February 1st application deadline. That is the final deadline for submitting an application to one of our master's programs, including the 3 that we have reviewed today. Unfortunately, we weren't able to have representatives for all of our master's programs present today, but if you have questions regarding the application process, regarding uploading documents for your application, please reach out to the graduate admissions team. That's the team that I lead. So you can reach out to either Sherry, Abby, or Christine. They each manage a certain number of applications. So for example, of the programs we discussed today, Abby would be your contact person if you're interested in bioengineering, mechanical engineering and applied mechanics, or material science and engineering. If you are interested in chemical and biomolecular engineering, you should reach out to Christine, and their email addresses are provided here. If you have any program related questions, so questions much like the panelists asked today. So if you want to know about what courses are required, you are required to take in order to fulfill requirements of your program, you should reach out to program administrators. So that would be the graduate coordinators in most cases, and their information is provided here, including Peter Litt, who is here with us today and representing mechanical engineering and applied mechanics. I just saw a quick question regarding costs. So thank you, Dr. Crocker, for outlining that tuition is based on the number of courses you enroll in per semester. So that's important for everyone to note. Now, I mentioned that we have limited funding available for master students. So this scholarship that you're seeing now, the Dean's Master Scholarship, is one of them. So the Dean's Master Scholarship is available to admitted master's applicants who identify as a member of an underrepresented group. So in the US, those are racial minorities, including Hispanic American, African American, Native American, and Pacific Islander. So if you meet any of those requirements, you may be directly considered for this scholarship. The award is $15,000 towards your first semester of full-time enrollment. So you have to be enrolled full-time, which means you're taking a minimum of 3 courses during the fall semester. All right. And so that's all we have for you today. We are very grateful that you're considering coming on to Penn Engineering for your graduate program. And if you have any further questions, please make sure to reach out to either the admissions staff or the program staff that I mentioned earlier. Take care, everyone, and good luck.